speakers. My name is Robert Orren. I'm from Cryptos and Tokens. We're a nonprofit organization. We definitely love the tech. So we're always engaging with new projects, seeing what's out there. There's so much to uncover and explore. And the reason I've reached out to y'all is because in some way or fashion, I've probably engaged with the blockchain or was fascinated about the crypto currency, and there's so much to learn. So also with everything emerging quickly, it's hard to stay up to date with everything. So what we do is we educate people how to use wallets, because there's so many different types of wallets, how to send, receive, and any other questions they have, because it can be challenging, especially purchasing, your first cryptos, and it's definitely a learning curve. So that's what we do. And as I mentioned, I'm definitely still in the space every day trying to learn something new. And there we go. So I want to thank Mike from the Digibyte SoCal community, and Lance. Thanks for joining. And we got Thiago. He's from Cardano. And they all have something to talk about. So we'll let Lance, since he's co-hosting this, he's going to give a little speech and wow us, hopefully.
I'll try to. I like how you talked about just the basics of wallets. I feel like when you work in the industry or you get used to this technology so much, you sort of take for granted those simple things about about blockchain, how wallets work, and just sending. Even the language that we use, right, can be confusing for new users. Like when I try to talk to family members or friends and I say wallets or mining or something like that, they can't really wrap their head around it. So it's important to stick to the basic and fundamentals of things if we want to try to get more users and people from Web 2 over to Web 3. But as Robert said, my name is Lance. I'm with XDC Foundation. I've been supporting the XDC network for over a year and a half or so. So as Robert said, I'll be co-hosting it, basically just engaging with all the other speakers that are in here today. They're from some very interesting networks and projects. So I'm even interested to learn from them as well. So I'm sure I'll be engaging in some conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves first. And after they introduce themselves, then I'll go ahead and give everybody a brief introduction to the XDC network. Mike, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself real quick? Yeah, I just got to unmute.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
all right.
No problem.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So thank you for the invite here. It's great to be a part of this conversation and to learn about all the great projects that are being worked on in this space, and also the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite projects, which is the Digibyte blockchain. I've been a member of this community for getting close to almost 5 years now. So it's been great to be a part of it, and I'm really looking forward to telling everyone here about the latest developments and all the use cases that involve NFTs and Web3.
Cool. Robert, I think you need to stop sharing for the video to be recorded, or about the speakers. If not, to cut the recording. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I think Nick is in here, but I'm not sure if he's a speaker. I see him in the audience room. But I don't want to cut you
is
off.
there a way to promote him? That's the...
So a bit about me. I have like background in computer science, system analysis. I run marketing agency company here in Brazil for 7 years. I also have my software house. I almost a decade in blockchain. The past like 5 years, 6 years was mostly about Cardano. So I participate in the early test nets where we are only establishing peer-to-peer connections. First stake pool operator from Brazil. 30 stake pool operator in the world to to swap the test net, and also now I'm basically co-founder in a blockchain game that's called Cardano Wars.
Nice. Interested to hear more about that. Nick, welcome. We've kind of went the rounds already a little bit. You came just in time, man. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself and who you're here with and what you're going to be talking about today?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate the opportunity. It's early here in Dubai, so getting my day off to a great start. Welcome to knowing me. My name's Nick, and my brain is clearly still waking up. So I'm the CEO of Divi Labs and one of the co-founders of the Divi project, which is a blockchain and cryptocurrency ecosystem that we created to essentially solve a lot of the issues in crypto surrounding user experience and accessibility. It's been around for 6 years now, and we have some patent pending technologies. We have a whole ecosystem of use cases and dApps and such. And I'm excited to talk about some of the latest and greatest things that we're working on, and hear what else is going on in the space with these amazing projects. So thanks again for having me.
Excellent. All right. So I think we're just waiting for one more speaker, but he'll probably join a little bit later. So he could go last. So as we were talking, everybody is here because they're doing something to create and build upon. So that's amazing. So I want to thank everybody again. And what we'll do is, Lance, so if you have a presentation, we'll start yours off and then we'll go down the line. So we'll go with Mike and he'll talk about Digibyte, and then Thiago, you can go third, and then Nick, you'll go fourth, and then we'll just wait for Andrea to see if he shows up. So that would be awesome. So again, it should be recording. We should be good to go. So if you want to take it away, Lance, when you're ready, let's see what you got.
Okay, yeah, I'll just give a brief introduction here to the network. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
Yes. Okay. All right. So as I said earlier, I work to support the XDC network through XDC Foundation. XDC Network is a layer 1 EVM compatible chain, which initially started with a focus in trade finance. The founders of the network come from that background and felt that or believed that blockchain technology could bridge the gap in trade finance. Now, it is also an open source network, right, where anybody can build on. So it has an ecosystem outside of its enterprise use cases and trade finance use cases. It also has a traditional crypto or blockchain ecosystem of communities around NFTs, DeFi, stuff like that. But it does have a very enterprise focus. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the trade finance aspect of it and sort of link that to DeFi and how the future of digital money basically is playing, or the XDC network is playing its part in digital money. So as I said, the founders started off or came from a trade finance background. So that's sort of, a colleague of mine mentions, when talking about comparing other layer 1 chains, what separates them? They're all fast and scalable and cheap fees, today, right? So what separates them? And what really separates them is the ecosystem and the developer community, obviously. But he relates them sort of to like amusement parks in a way, right? And what's this layer 1's ride or this layer 1's ride, right? And ours is trade finance. That's sort of our niche. So in 2019, it was estimated around 1.5 trillion, and in 2022 is around 1.7 trillion. There's some more statistics around that that have been projected to as far as 2030 even. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but the gap is in the opportunity in trade finance is growing. I've seen a large change even in a lot of other networks or communities supporting other networks that are starting to focus on trade finance as well. XRP, for instance, I started in crypto and blockchain with XRP. That was sort of my first blockchain that I got into, and it was all about payments, especially microtransactions or micro payments, right? Or liquidity in blockchain. But even a lot of people that are focused on building on XRP see the potential in trade finance, and even a lot of other large chains see the potential in trade finance. So there's a lot of others also going out for this and see it as a very good use case for blockchain. But basically, trade finance is the financing required to fuel the movement of goods and services around the world. Basically, trade finance fuels supply chain, manufacturing. It's basically finance and capital that keeps the world running in supply chain and in trade. Trade finance, it did have lower competition, I would say, when XDC Network first got started. But as I said before, it's definitely growing the amount of competition because there's a lot of opportunity out there. So the XDC Network, as I said, was initially created to connect decentralized trade finance applications, and then also to encourage the trade finance ecosystem. It delivers scalable and cost-efficient settlement rails for exchange of tokenized assets, and we're going to get into tokenized assets a little bit later, because that's where I believe that a lot of the opportunity is, especially with XDC, but in trade finance in particular. So moving forward, XDC Network is also the first and only layer 1 blockchain that's part of the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative. And basically, it's a consortium of a lot of the world's, leading banks and non-bank, financial institutions that are focused on, developing technology and working on bridging that gap in trade finance. The TFD initiative is the largest business community of trade originators also. So as you can see on the top of the slide here, it shows quite a few of the other members of the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative. There's a lot of other initiatives that have come out of this as well, and a lot of participants in this try to collaborate with each other on bridging that gap in trade finance and penetrating some of that opportunity that's in trade finance. One of the other participants in the Trade Finance Distribution Initiative and also on the XDC network is TradeTech. TradeTech, delivered the first NFT, trade finance NFT, that was actually on the XDC network, and they have a couple of other solutions that they've also built on the network as well. So also around TradeTech, they launched recently what's called the Trada token. Some people call it Trada, I call it Trada. But basically, it's a tool that's being used. It's a security token that's launched on the XDC network. And it's mainly around like invoices to produce capital around invoices in trade finance. And basically, this helps produce more capital for people that are waiting on their invoices, 90-day invoices or whatever. And then there's a return on that with those invoices. So the Trada token, is developed by a team of capital markets, technology, and blockchain experts. So it's powered by TradeTech, and it was launched on the XDC network. And it's a fully regulated security token. Basically, it provides scalable access to trade finance assets, which are a lot of the invoices that I was talking about. It's decentralized, cost-effective, and efficient. Also, TradeTech is also a World Economic Forum member as well. And they're continuing, around Trada, this is something that they're working on continuously, but they're also working on other solutions around trade finance. Another participant on the network, this kind of goes outside of trade finance a little bit. Trade finance plays a huge part of it, but the other part of it is tokenization and securrency. As you can see here, is a digital asset composer built on XDC. They're all about digital assets. And basically trying to participate more in a regulated DeFi environment. I think, being from crypto or traditional blockchain communities, we're used to what we call DeFi, but I think DeFi is starting to evolve a little bit away from that. People in communities talk about they want institutional adoption, they want regulatory clarity on a lot of those things. And some of the things in DeFi right now just aren't going to fly in a a regulated environment. And we have quite a few participants in the network that realize that and are working towards working in that environment around DeFi. This is just a few of the participants that are launched on the XDC network around stablecoins, commodities, and security tokens. As we mentioned, TradeFi is a security token. There's also the US Plus stablecoin that's from Fluent, which is a stablecoin that's minted on the XDC network through a consortium of banks. There's also Comtech Gold, which is tokenized gold. Now, if you're interested in tokenized gold or even tokenization in general, I would look into them, a little bit more. I recently hosted them about a week ago for an AMA. I had their CEO, Naveen, on, and he broke down the process of how they actually tokenize gold and the different, auditing processes that they have. Not only do they audit, their gold, audit their supply, but they also work with the DMCC, which is basically a regulator or works with regulators out of Dubai. And they're sort of a check and balance as well on what their supply is, and their auditing or monitors their auditing of their actual gold sources. I remember, back in the day, 2016 or whatever, people would mention, digital assets backed by gold, and people would think that that's just a really big deal. And now you see it sort of all over the place, and people kind of take for granted just how big of a deal this is, that it's an actual gold asset that can be transacted around the world 24/7, all the time and really fast. Yours is a stable coin based on the euro that's launched on the XDC network as well. There's a few others. If you want to go to xdc.org and go to ecosystem, you can look at a list of different participants that are built on the network. And you can really dig into there and find other participants that are doing stuff around tokenization, DeFi, and working more in a regulated environment. It also shows a lot of the participants there that aren't necessarily focused on enterprise or trade finance as well, if you really want to look into it. The reason I mentioned this slide last is trade finance is a big thing. Tokenization is a really big thing in trade finance. But I think tokenization is something that maybe another thing that we probably take for granted as far as how beneficial this can be to grow not only DeFi, but even regulated financial environments. And this just shows a few of them that are on the XDC network. That's really all I got on XDC. I don't want to hijack the call and take it any further, but basically this just kind of gives you a summary of a few of the participants that have built on XDC, what it's focused on, and how it's working towards tokenizing and digitizing DeFi on XDC.
All right, awesome. Thank you. That was a good information right there, and well informed. So if anybody has any questions about the XDC, just post them in the room chat, and then we'll collectively do a Q&A at the end. So thank you.
Anybody mention anything in the room chat?
No, I dropped the URL,
Okay.
and a few users were having audio issues, but it seems like that's been corrected. So hopefully everybody can hear everybody else loud and clear. So, all right, so we'll kick it off next with Mike from the Digibyte. And you can give us, a little taste of what's coming and what's new with Digibyte, because it's one of those old school blockchains. So looking forward to hearing.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, it's I really appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight and talk to you all about the Digibyte blockchain. For those who aren't aware, I'll spend a couple quick minutes to go over what it is. It's a proof of work UTXO blockchain based off of is originally a code-based fork of Litecoin, so it falls within the family of Bitcoin and Litecoin and Bitcoin and all the other UTXOs. It was launched in 2014, and it's often referred to as a dino coin, I guess because it's been around so long. It's now a dinosaur. But, I think some people say that as maybe a slur, but I think it's a good thing because it's tried and true blockchain. It's had 100% uptime since its launch. And, there's a lot of features about the blockchain that make it, that do separate it from Bitcoin and some of the others. For example, it has 5 mining algorithms. I'm going to pull up the Digibyte wiki page here with a lot of these stats here. And also, I have a PDF document with all the links I'm going to cover here. I'll upload that to the chat here in just a minute. But as I mentioned, it has 5 mining algorithms, so it's very decentralized. It also creates insanely fast block times. It creates a new block every 15 seconds. So I believe we're up to over 16 million blocks. And it also incorporates what is known as DigiShield. This is real-time difficulty adjustment. So whenever the difficulty of the mining algorithm, if there's a lot of volatility, it's able to adjust that in real time so the chain doesn't slow down or go too fast. So it can maintain that 15-second block times very efficiently. As I mentioned, it is proof of work, and it is a UTXO. There was no ICO. It's completely permissionless and open source. And so, it's great for, it's a community blockchain where anyone can come in and contribute and be a part of the process in any way that they would like to choose. So it's, there's a lot of benefits to it in terms of just, the accessibility of it. Often, for a lot of people who are like trying to like get into the industry, they're like, well, how do I get experience? Well, a project like Digibyte is perfect for that because you can just jump in and, contribute in any way that you'd like. There are some recent developments with the code itself. Here's the GitHub, but they just released version 8.2.2 of Digibyte, which does a lot of things to the code kind of under the hood. A lot of things such as just cleaning up the code itself. There's over like 250,000 lines of code in the blockchain, and it also brings it up to speed with the Bitcoin 8.2.2. So it now has capabilities of Schnorr signatures, pardon me, and also with elements of Taproot, but not all of them, because the developers, they saw that there were potentially issues that could be brought about if they incorporated all the features, such as we see with ordinals and Bitcoin. There's been a lot of with congestion on the network, and fees are really high, and they decided not to put in, not only for that reason, but they really don't need to because of the asset layer that runs on Digibyte, known as Digi Assets, which we'll get to in just a moment. But as I mentioned, it's a completely community-driven project. I am a member of the Digibyte Foundation, which is registered in the Netherlands. We strive to just educate and inform and support all things related to the Digibyte blockchain. There are other groups such as the Digibyte Awareness Team and also the Digibyte Alliance. And just one other quick note here, I do have a YouTube channel, which you can take a look at, where we do semi-regular content related around the Digibyte blockchain. So let me go ahead and jump ahead to some NFTs that can be built on Digibyte. And I'm going to open up, this is my DigiAssetX wallet. DigiAssetX was launched about 1.5 years ago, and it's been a great platform for a lot of content creators. There's the Digibyte Elf Society, there's the DigiZoo, there's Qubit House. One of my personal favorites is the Galactic Cred, which is a comic book here. And if you click on owner content, it opens up a new tab, and he's got, an animated PDF with sound effects and dialogue. It's a very immersive experience, and it's a fantastic, piece of content that people can build on DigiAssetX. And what's great about this platform is that you can also incentivize your assets. For example, if you hold that comic book, then over time you earn his tokens that he created to go along with it, known as cred. So you can incentivize people to actually hold on to the assets and not just right click save as, and now they think, well, now I've got the NFT. Well, there's more to it than that, of course. And so with DigiAssets, again, it's the asset layer that's built on Digibyte. it's not Turing complete like Ethereum. So it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that, you know, an Ethereum contract would have, but, you know, maybe you don't need all those things. You know, it does have the security of being a decentralized proof of work UTXO. So there's a lot of security that comes with assets that are on Digibyte. Next, I'd like to pull up this one here, known as the Digibyte domain. These are unstoppable domains that are now available through Digibyte. And here's the website for that, where you can just type in your word that you want to, you know, create your domain and do a search and see if it's available. And if it is, you know, you just, I think it's like around $12 as far as total Digibytes to purchase that domain. And then it will send it to your NFT wallet, and whatever wallet holds that NFT, you know, this is a human readable address. So, you know, a lot of times when we were talking earlier about wallets, and it can be confusing, you know, sometimes when you see an address, you're like, well, you know, you can't even remember it. And, you know, it can be kind of difficult to deal with if you're, you know, you can't just simply copy and paste it. So if you can just, you know, for example, you know, I'll go back here, you know, mine is called mike.dgb. So anyone can just send Digibyte to this address. And again, this is a, you know, a Web3 capable domain. You know, it's censor resistant, and you know, as long as you hold on to the NFT, that domain will last forever. Let me go ahead and move on to let's talk a little bit about DigiID. So this is an authentication tool that exists through Digibyte. It was built off of the BitID, which was released, but never really, you know, developed back in the day. So the Digibyte developers saw an opportunity here to create an authentication tool. It's free to use. You don't need to use or send any Digibytes in order to use the tool. You simply just scan a QR code, and then you use your private keys. You just sign, you know, enter your password on your wallet, or, you know, if you've got a, you know, fingerprint reader on your device, to authorize that communication, and then it signs you in. And so it reduces a lot of, you know, one of the attack vectors for hackers is through usernames and passwords. A lot of times they get reused. You know, they're not as secure as they could be. And again, this is a free open source tool that anyone can build off of here in the App Store. This company, AntimID, created one. And also, let me move on to another company that is taking us to the next level, which is Digi3 Labs, which is the enterprise subsidiary of Digicorp Labs. And just for the sake of, you know, transparency, I am also an ambassador for Digicorp Labs. But Digi3 Labs, they've done a soft release of their DGMV ID authentication tool. And this was announced over at the Hanover Mesa convention back in April. And this is a showcase over in Europe, and it was a pretty big event. And what the DGMV ID, it provides a suite of authentication for, you know, various tools. So you can, you know, it's sorry, here it's the identity access management tool. So it can provide the ability to do authentication, like we discussed with the DGID, but you can do the password generator, two-factor authentication. It's coming out with a digital wallet, so it can also hold cryptocurrencies as well. So it's really, you know, and it has a dashboard, so it can provide not just, you know, individual users, but also companies that want to incorporate this technology with their employees, for example, for, you know, account access or building access. You know, it's a tool that can, you know, give control to the individual. So it maintains, you know, self-sovereignty of your digital identity. And it's, you know, I think it's a great step forward within the Web3 environment. So, you know, that's just kind of a snapshot look at a lot of the things that are being built on Digibyte. As I mentioned, here's some more wallets. Securus Wallet is currently developing their mobile wallet, which will support Digi assets. Another community member is taking an initiative to reach out to Atomic Dex, who has their own wallet, but they're looking to create a Digibyte branded wallet, which would have a link to the decentralized exchange that the Atomic Dex provides. So there's a lot of things happening with Digibyte. It's a really it's a dynamic community. A lot of things are going on, both as I mentioned within Web3 and many other aspects of the blockchain space. So, again, that's just a quick snapshot of all the different things that are going on with Digibyte. And, I'll be happy to try and answer any questions that anyone may have regarding, Digibyte. So please feel free to reach out. And on that note, I will end my screen share and I will hand it back to our hosts, Robert and Lance.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, since last time there's a lot more going on. So as I mentioned earlier in 2018, I learned about Digibyte, and there wasn't as much complexity to it. So, and there's so much more going on. So now with the NFTs. So
yeah, like I said, there's been a lot of development over the years, a lot of use cases created out of it and through it, and other companies that created around it and building on top of it. So it's been great to be a part of it and to watch it all happen. So it's great to be a part of it. I'm going to go ahead and upload that PDF up to the chat now. Let me see if that
all right, cool. Thank you.
pulls up there. So that's just so if anyone wants to take a look at that, it has links to all the websites that you saw during my screen share. And like I said, if anyone has any questions or anything, I'm happy to help. And maybe I don't have the answer, but we can find out and get back in touch with you. So on that note, I will hand it back to you guys. Thank you.
All right, Thiago, your turn to shine. So I know you have a great, overwhelming project with the NFT game on Cardano. That's it looks really cool because I'm very one of those aesthetic and old school gamers. So I'm sure once people see what you're building out, they're probably going to be impressed. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. So let's start, guys. By the way, I'm a bit out of voice. Too many meetings. Also a bit sick. My mother tongue it's not English. I'm a native speaker of Portuguese. So sorry, I just learned English a few years ago. If my presentation got a bit clunky.
Don't worry about it at all. Don't worry about it at all.
So let's start sharing here. Yeah, everyone can see.
Yep.
Okay, great. So guys, the project is called Cardano Warhorse. This project started like in 2 years ago. Basically, we are running for 2 years. And I was not part of the team when the project started. I joined 2 months later after the mint to be more like a complementary force around Cardano technology and the project. Since then, there has been like a wild ride in terms of game market and blockchain and all that related to NFTs, because we had like the bull market and suddenly a lot of people got hurt by blockchain games. And all this changes, all this perspective that I wanted to present today is also related a bit with this experience. So this is not a presentation about the project itself, but the perspective about the gaming inside a blockchain ecosystem and vice versa. So who am I? Thiago Nunes. I already introduced myself. My Twitter, Telegram are TSNNST, this handle. And today we're talking about the blockchain gaming scene. I think the first elephant in the room today is that the gamers are looking to the games in blockchain like more like just a way to extract value and not finding the fun nature of the games that they find on the Web 2 or the old platforms. And this is like is very annoying for these gamers, because the monetary aspect is something that's not entirely the reason why they engage in a game. They want to have fun. You know, when I was collecting Magic cards, I was not caring how much money I was spending on that. I wanted to play the cards with my friends, and you know, have the challenge of winning the battles. But it's undeniable the level of innovation and impact that we can bring with blockchain technology on top of the game experience. And yeah, but we need to take a bit of more. We need to be careful in bring fun and usability at the same time. So this is one of the challenges.
You think it was more like people in crypto that were just trying to take advantage of, you know, it's sort of a new thing, new hot thing in crypto to make money off of, and versus actual gamers trying to use the technology? It was more like people trying to use the technology for profit rather than gamers actually trying to use the technology.
Yes, that was the case, and this generated a bad taste on several people. For example, I was trying to showcase Cardano Malheurs to a person that is close to me, and then the question that raised was, "Hey, if I connect here, I will not lose money." That was the concern, and the level of the bad taste that led on the amount of this gamers that are not, you know, ready to engage in Web3 mechanics. And by the way, what the games were doing was completely wrong. You want, let me keep the presentation going. I will explain the problem.
Yeah.
So we have like, there is this chicken and egg situation when around the gaming industry. For one side, we have this large user base inside this traditional gaming platforms like Steam, Unreal, etc. But and blockchain, they are really struggling to scale their user base, and this is completely understandable. Okay, traditional game developers, they have like a very hard time trying to fund their operation, while on the other end, for blockchain developers, it's not a thing. You know, the liquidity is more easy when you're trying to deploy a product that's innovating and you know, trying to create something different. And this is like it's kind of how we can bring these two worlds together. You know, the gamers, the game developers, to understand a bit Web3 and take advantage of this liquidity, and at the same time the blockchain game developers to look to the experience behind the traditional gaming, to understand what are the next steps to integrate this two different audiences to interact. So we need to find a way to balance fun and innovation, and that's where the challenges start. Okay, we have the traditional games, they are fun, but these platforms, they often consume a lot of the developer profits. The other day I was checking a game developer that deployed a game on Steam, I think, and basically 40% of all his sales was taxed. I think the guy was American, but I think was more or less 40% of all the sales. So if a guy needs to coordinate a team, invest and hire more developers, it's really hard to bootstrap, a huge operation and try to reach higher levels in innovation. But blockchain has this other challenge that is very hard to grasp. Requires like a certain level of education, and this translates in a more difficult time to engage in the platforms. So where we should looking for the solution, and I think it's about being the middle, like the Web 2.5. And I call this Web 2.5 because it's connecting the Web 2 accounts to Web 3 mechanics and Web 3 backend, and removing the first barrier of entry to this user. And we can see why this makes so sense. And one of the reasons is the way society is changing in terms of consuming information, interactions, and behaviors. There is also the fundamentals of blockchain that impact a lot. This narrative, everything around blockchain is related to self responsibility, and it takes a bit more time to just engage with these concepts to put in practice. So the Web3 developer has this in mind, and he tries to address this also for the Web3 community, because today who pays the bill are at the Web3 community, but at the same time you need to grow the user base. That's very hard to enter the ecosystem because a lot of barriers. And the second one is like when the user is taking this decision to go forward. You don't want the guy to learn how a seed phrase work, how to install a MetaMask, just to try the product and see if he likes the game and if he's having a good time. So I think creating this extra step is really necessary and creates this blockchain abstraction that hides the complexity that the ecosystem that we are building on. So some things that we can have in mind when dealing with blockchain abstractions is that users, they want to learn the last and engage fast. The abstraction makes the platform more comfortable to them. If instead I put the name of wallet, I just say that is account and balance, try to hide the terminology that could make difficult to understand. Here we also talk about facilitating authentication. If we don't have like a Google account, we should have more tools connected to the platform to allow a quick authentication. For example, just an app where you can point a camera, like Digibyte was explaining on the presentation, as the same as we have for WhatsApp, that you can log in on the web browser, just pointing the camera and authenticating. So this is a new step for not wasting the user time when they trying to create an account and engage a bit deeply in your platform. So success and onboarding. The thing is that we don't need to rush to onboard these users to Web3. You know, we need to create this, not only this technological bridge, but we need to create this education bridge around those users and those communities. And I think the projects are responsible to take part on the education side of things, because this is the complex part of the blockchain side. We are creating the tools and the mechanics, and at some point we will have to explain to these users if you really want to onboard them inside the Web3 ecosystem. But this can't be like a prerequisite for the user to interact. We need to create opportunity inside the platform to, when the user feel free to learn and encouraged to learn, to try that content on by his own. And this is something that if you put as part of your product, it helps a lot to keep them engaged in the game without worrying about when they need to learn about blockchain. And community plays a super important role on this narrative, because when you learn with other people around, engaging and asking a question, it also creates an environment where it's also safer to share information, share ideas, and try to reach a conclusion. So having a community engaged in explain, being part of this education process, it's very important for this project to succeed on this transition from Web 2 to Web 3. And that's is the part where the platform needs to take action and build these tools for their user base, this user base that's coming from Web 2 to grow inside their platform. So with this brief introduction, I would like to tell what Cardano Maher is doing related to that. We want to focus in a fun game first. Cardano Maher is a full MMORPG, so we want to focus on the free-to-play experience of this MMORPG in our platform. But at the same time, creating opportunities for financial speculation. To create a user-friendly blockchain interaction, abstraction is key to achieve that. We need to behave way more like a centralized exchange for a short period of time, and then help this user to migrate to the Web3 standard. Okay, download an app, do the self-custody of your wallet, and etc. So in order to help this user to achieve this goal, we need to create content that will help him. So inside Cardano Warriors metaverse. We are creating dungeons that educate players. And those dungeons, they are not part of the MMORPG experience and lore. They are like side quests in the metaverse where they are trying a new thing. It's there as an option. And if he engage on that dungeon and learns something, he'll be rewarded with Web3 items, and also as a learning experience, he'll be rewarded with content, and he will learn something. So we have this Lace. Lace is a wallet on Cardano, and we have this Lace dungeon that one of the first basic stuff that we are trying to teach is about seed phrases. It's a small dungeon that we are that's under development. And the last one is putting communities together. If we have a chance to prove to the world that we can change behaviors in society, is by doing as example. So every partnership that I try to do on Cardano Warriors, I try to connect social impact somehow, because on my perspective, this is the way to achieve a better society, a free society, that we are not being coerced to certain actions that we did not agree. So I try to connect communities and trying to find behind their projects what their community could like and care in a more profound way, maybe looking for a purpose behind that project that they are supporting. So a quick example here for you guys to understand. We have this partnership with Husky Token. It's a meme coin on Cardano. It's a dog. And we have other conversations with projects that have NFT collection based in cats. Okay. What we can do is, can I join these two Web3 communities, create a mechanic in game, and create an incentive where transactions that happen on that location with the interaction of this both communities could help to create a fund to remove animals, cats and dogs from the street. So in that way, we try to bring impact and purpose for those two communities to interact. So I think this is all the composition for a good product to rise, to make difference, to engage, to teach, and to showcase what blockchain technology has to offer to our society, and also to do a counter argument with all those negativity engagement that we had from past projects and NFTs around blockchains. So this is basically the conclusion that I was explaining a bit early. Yeah, that's it, guys. This is Cardano Warriors.
All right. Thanks for your perspective on blockchain gaming and, the GameFi space, as we refer to it. So everybody should go check it out. I think there's a alpha version, right? Is that correct? Or is it past alpha and beta?
We have like a small mini game that's called Time Attack. It's just a mini game for the community. Our first beta we are planning to release end next year, probably, depending on the market. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. Next, we'll have Nick talk, and then Andrea joined us, so thanks for that. So, Nick and I, we go way back. I think early 2018. I met him at a conference here in LA, and I don't know, we just kind of clicked. So, it was, I still remember his expression. He's like, "Oh, you know about Divi?" Because I was doing some research on master nodes, and that was I was always taken back by that. So, you're going to talk about the Divi project, and I know you have some cool things coming out because your community is always wanting more and more and more. So go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, appreciate it once again for having me up here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about some of our sort of innovations in DeFi for a bit, and then I'll talk about some of the things that we've been working on outside of that, or that the community, I should say, has been working on, the variety of use cases that have come out since the last time we hung out. Let me just make this happen real quick. Okay. Cool. Is this actually, I think I'm sharing the wrong one. I'm so sorry, guys.
Okay, take your time.
Okay, here we go. Okay, cool. So yeah, this entire ecosystem has intrigued me for a while, DeFi in general, especially in the past, I would say, really 2 years, because with all the collapse of all of the things and all of the failures of all the centralized entities in the space, some of whom are the biggest, known entities, the one thing that worked throughout that period of time was DeFi, right? Lending continued to work. Even some of the more established stablecoins like MakerDAO's DAI have just absolutely held up against all of the market turmoil that we've seen. However, DeFi is I would say relatively limited in its scope, in terms of like who's actually using it. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that it's just really freaking confusing to use. I've onboarded lots of people into DeFi, and all of them find the same issues. There's like always a point where it's just too much. It's too complicated. There's too many steps. And Divi from the beginning has been all about removing a lot of steps from complex cryptocurrency and blockchain use cases and infrastructure. So we're trying to do the same thing with DeFi. So there's three challenges that we've identified. There's a lot of challenges in DeFi, but these are the three that we're basically focused on. First of all, being fragmentation. You have a lot of DeFi platforms on a lot of chains, and a lot of them are just completely disconnected from one another. How do you choose where to go? Is it based on TVL, or what's the top on DeFi Llama? There's a million different resources to decide. So fragmentation is a big problem, especially when it comes to chains that are not DeFi native, right? So we've have someone on the call, Digibyte, including Divi. Divi's blockchain is a UTXO chain, similar to Bitcoin or even Cardano's UTXO. So you have these very secure blockchains that are mathematically proficient and sound, but they find difficulty in connecting to the rest of the sort of robust world of DeFi and smart contracts, et cetera. So we've solved that issue as well, at least for our own chain. The second issue is onboarding. Onboarding obviously is a huge problem across the space. We already have solved that in many ways with our mobile wallet, which enables people to sign up with just a username and email, and set their avatar and username, and have a human readable address by default. But DeFi is a different beast in that you have connections to RPCs and MetaMask, and there's a bunch of different browser wallets, and it's very, very complex and not very intuitive. So again, we've found ways to resolve that issue. And then I think probably one of the biggest issues on Ethereum, at least, and some of the other L1s, is gas. So the ability to transact is basically tied to how much additional money you have in your wallet, which on Ethereum recently has required quite a bit, with meme coin season going wild. And I'll talk about how we solve all these things throughout this process. Another big aspect of DeFi is staking, right? And I think staking is incredible. I think, obviously Divi is a proof of stake blockchain, and many of the newest chains that come out all choose to use proof of stake. Ethereum obviously has transitioned to it. However, when it comes to staking, there's a lot of misnomers and a lot of misconceptions about what actually staking is. You have delegated proof of stake, you have, layer 1 proof of stake, and then you have like DeFi smart contract staking. And now that we have Ethereum on proof of stake, you have what are called liquid staking tokens, which are essentially a marker for what is essentially a custodial staking service. To me, that just departs from the whole point of proof of stake. Anytime that custody is required in terms of doing anything in cryptocurrency, I feel that there's been a failure in the architectural design of that process. The entire point of this ecosystem, this industry, is to decentralize finance, right? So liquid staking tokens are a great way to earn yield on assets that are, of course, staked with someone else. And of course, also give you liquidity to enable you to go and participate in DeFi or get new loans or whatever you're trying to do with those tokens. But they solve a need again, in my opinion, in an incorrect fashion, because in the case of Ethereum, it's really complex to set up a staking node and run your own node. But running an individual node also enhances the network's, censorship resistance and decentralization, which is paramount to the success of the network, especially as governments start to bear down on cryptocurrency and blockchain. So while I think it's a good solution, it's not the best solution, which is why we developed what we call staking vaults. And staking vaults enable you to stake, actually validate transactions directly with your own node, but in a completely self-custodial way and without actually needing 100% uptime. It's a patent pending process that we developed ourselves. But despite the fact that it's patent pending, it is open source. So basically all you need to do is reach out. In most cases, we just ask for credit. We're not licensing it or anything. So it's a great solution for, mobile staking on devices that don't have the hardware capabilities to run a full node and such. So with our ability to have staking vaults, this enabled us to enter the world of DeFi in a new way from Divi's perspective. So we wrapped our coin, our layer 1 coin, on Polygon and on Ethereum so far, and we'll continue to wrap the coin on other networks as we move forward. What this enables us to do is essentially all of the Divi that is wrapped goes into one of these staking vaults. And the staking vaults then are able to pay out anybody who engages with our platforms, whether it's Divi DeFi, which I'll show you in a second, or others. So you can actually go and engage with, yield farming or AMMs or whatever on our platform while still earning the same staking rewards that you'd expect on our layer 1. And of course, this is all done through self-custodial means. And for us, at least, it's a great way to open the door for people who want to engage with DeFi, but who are probably more familiar with our layer 1. I spoke earlier about onboarding solutions. So in my opinion, like Connect Wallet and then, string of address, even having like an ENS or what have you can be confusing because you have to still set up the ENS, which requires you to know a lot about what that is, how to use MetaMask, etc. So we integrated Magic Link into our platform, which just enables you to sign up for the DeFi platform with an email. or your Google account. And you can actually sign transactions directly with that wallet. It basically establishes a Web3 wallet for the user, and you're able to do all the things that you would expect to be able to do with Web3, with DeFi, without actually needing to understand the inner workings of everything that's going on. And then finally, this is a feature that's going to be coming out on our DeFi platform here in the next little while. I won't give any dates, but essentially what it enables is gasless trading. So I think probably one of the only other projects that's really focusing on gasless, at least in the EVM ecosystem, is 1inch. But we feel that it's extremely important for the success of DeFi to not have to necessarily hold the layer 1 or the base layer token in your wallet in order to transact. And this can be true of anything, not just DeFi. It should be for minting NFTs or playing games or whatever. Essentially, the way it works is that the fees are subsidized by the developer. This is actually something that Flow introduced a while ago, and I know that Ethereum is trying to introduce it on the base layer as well. It's a bit more complex for them, I think, but I think more and more platforms will be going gasless in the future. Of course, the gas is paid by someone, but the subsidy can be paid by the user in other ways, right? Whether that's just a fee in the actual token they want to spend, or extracting value in other ways. It's, in my mind, the only way that we can move forward with a decentralized future, and a future that enables a user experience that's familiar enough for users that are coming from Web 2. So that's everything as far as like my perspective on DeFi is concerned. But I want to show you guys some things that we've been working on. So as I mentioned, Divi's been around for 6 years now. We launched our blockchain back in 2018. And since then, we've built a lot of products, both us and our community, other developers and people that wanted to engage with us. So, but our flagship product is the Divi wallet, which is a self-custody multi-coin wallet. Enables people to purchase cryptocurrency with a credit card, swap, convert a variety of different chains, and of course stake Divi, so you can stake directly on your phone, 100% self-custodial, and participate in what we call the Divi lottery, which allows 11 people per week, 11 stakers, I should say, to win a predetermined amount of Divi just for staking. It's a really fun little feature that we've had since the beginning. Our wallet is the official regional wallet of La Liga, which is the Spanish football league or soccer for everyone in the US and Canada. So we have been with La Liga for a year now. And as of this week, actually, we're just beginning to negotiate basically phase 2, which will enable a lot of integrations with their ecosystem. So looking at sports has been a big focus of ours for the past for the past year or so, year and a half, because sports is an amazing use case for cryptocurrency and for blockchain, whether it be from the aspect of ticketing or merchandising, NFTs for players or whatever. And we've seen some basic things happening across sports already. And I think that's only going to grow as more of these use cases come online. But yeah, check out the Divi wallets on Android, iOS. This is the DeFi platform that I was just discussing. So you can go trade right now. You can, the cross-chain staking will be out very soon. We're in the final phases of setting that up, making sure it's secure and all of that. So yeah, you can go trade and run an LP right now if you'd like. Another cool thing that was developed by my co-founder, Jeff McCabe, is called Lightning Works. I think it's probably one of the coolest use cases for Divi and honestly for NFTs as well. He's brought on board a number of professionals from the comic book industry. He's got artists from Marvel, DC, and he's got professionals from the executive level of a variety of comic book and entertainment companies who have come together to create what I think is a very unique ecosystem for for comics, you can actually purchase what he calls a portal. And the portal enables the holder to basically become a comic book store. So all of the new comics that come out, and they have several already out now that you can read through, and they're interactive and whatnot. If you hold a portal, you can become a vendor of those and earn more Divi, and of course enjoy the art and the stories behind them. With that, we've also put out a video game called Siege Worlds. And Siege Worlds is one of the comics in the Lightning Works ecosystem, which is a fully play to earn game that you can go play right now, download on Mac or PC, and play with friends, up to 4 friends at a time online, and earn some Divi. And I think he's got Bitcoin in there as well that you can earn. So it's a pretty fun game, actually. And so that's out now. We have Divi Go, which is a WhatsApp client. It's a wallet that enables you to actually stake. If you want to stake, you can mint NFTs, you can hold NFTs right in WhatsApp. So everyone has WhatsApp, like globally. It's one of the most adopted applications on earth. And I feel like ChatGPT has been such a great intuitive explanation for AI. Anybody who picks up ChatGPT instantly understands why it's valuable and can engage with it immediately without understanding AI or anything really about that industry. And Divi Go, I feel like, does the same thing. You can text it, it'll send you some Divi, you can send Bitcoin, Polygon, Matic, and a variety of other chains. So it's basically the same wallet as the mobile wallet. It's just the interface is on WhatsApp. And yeah, the NFT minting feature is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because you literally just text it a picture and it'll mint the NFT on Polygon for you. And then recently we just launched our DAO on Snapshot. So our community is starting to get involved with some of the decision-making processes within the ecosystem. I think, having launched this project back in 2017 and now being here in 2023, where there's so much beyond what we build and what we work on, and it's the ecosystem has become so decentralized that I feel like we've achieved a lot as far as adhering to the principles of blockchain. So I'm excited about the DAO, and I'm excited to see that people are starting to get involved with it. Right now that's Divi, and there's tons of stuff coming very soon. We've spent a lot of time working on our blockchain, so there's going to be some very unique and interesting features coming out there. Side chains that enable EVM compatibility and a variety of other cross-chain capable features. And of course, our other platforms continue to grow. And one of the big things that I'm focused on right now for Divi Labs is integration with enterprise. I feel strongly that the next wave of adoption will come from enterprise integration. If we look at, some of the biggest businesses in the world have millions and millions of customers, and the technology that we build, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, has matured now to the extent that it can be integrated with enterprise scale technologies. We can build user experiences that are fluid enough if we want to. We have the capability to be gasless and keep things decentralized. So now I think the next wave is really going to come from enterprises. We've seen with Reddit. I just posted on my Twitter, somebody else's tweet, just retweeted it. But Reddit onboarded with their NFT initiative twice as many new participants in cryptocurrency and blockchain Web3 than all the NFTs on Ethereum and OpenSea combined. That's one company, right? That's one integration. And it was very simple, just avatars, right? Something that everybody could get involved with. When we start to see that at scale with use cases that are extremely useful to us, and I'm talking about airline tickets, loyalty programs, events and things like that, that's going to be extremely valuable to the ecosystem. And so that's why I've been focusing for the past basically year on just developing that kind of business. It's difficult, but to convince these big businesses to take a leap into Web3, but baby steps. And I think really it's going to be a massive boon for us as more and more people have the same philosophy and start to do the same. We're starting to see it already. So anyway, that's pretty much it. So if there's questions or whatever, take them at the end.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. So if you have any questions for Nick,
Yeah.
and Divi, just post them in the chat. And then what we'll do is we'll introduce Andrea. Hello, how are you doing? You're also on the other side of the world, so hopefully you can hear us.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, great.
I'm
Thanks
trying
for,
to place actually. Here I am.
Okay, great. So yeah,
Indeed.
Andrea and I, we go way back, mostly on LinkedIn. He always posts amazing articles about traditional finance, and now he's all in. I think he sees the future as well with the Web3 and what blockchain and other technologies can do to merge both industries. So I'm not gonna sit here and explain, because you're the expert on that, and you let us know what's going on.
Many things are going on actually, Robert, and thanks for the nice introduction. Unlike the other speakers today, I don't belong purely to the technical world, the world of technology. I came late actually into this world and find it's really exciting, especially blockchain. My background, just a little quick introduction about my background. I'm a former now trade finance specialist who had not to work in banking system, but work for multinational companies basically. So I come from a very traditional and very resistant to change environment, which is trade in general and trade finance in particular. So it basically, if I have to picture this world, is by showing you this. It's paper. So you maybe heard about documentary credits. You maybe heard about trade finance, which is the discipline that lies behind every transaction going on in the real world. It's probably funny to hear that you say it was created here in the place where I do live, Italy, some centuries ago, and never really evolved so much. Basically remained unchanged at its core. The recent events exposed the industry to its flaws and bottlenecks. And I'm talking about COVID-19, so all the demises that it created were deeply exposed. You heard maybe that trade finance being deeply impacted by blockchain, many ventures being created, and many demises being caused recently in the industry. Many ventures failed. So it's been kind of and you know, by the way, Robert, because you've been by my side, and Lance as well. It's lots of rumors, lots of buzzwords around what's going on in the blockchain space and trade finance in particular. It's not over at all. The journey for trade finance and trade in general into the Web3 has just begun. This is my opinion, but it's not the only one. So these technologies have a deep impact and will have constantly a deeper impact into the trade and trade finance space. It's no longer sustainable trade the way it's done today. It's no longer the case of going on with that, because it's not inclusive at all. Think about the traditional trade finance scenario. You see an entity, a central one, that runs the whole stuff. So blockchain really has the potential to disrupt the whole industry in depth. It won't happen overnight, because it cannot happen. and because of too many stakeholders involved in a single transaction. Consider that in trade, there can be even up to 35 stakeholders in a single cargo shipment. So it's some kind of tricky stuff to get it done. But again, you have blockchain now, you have Web3 that can enable the creation of what I usually call ecosystems compared to platform. So if there is one more thing that we can think about as disruption is that to think in a different way. You might heard of blockchain platform. Let's create ecosystems instead of platforms. Besides, you see the paper-based world being transported into the digital world, there is another thing which is even more important, and that can be enabled by Web3 and blockchain. Nowadays, in modern age, trade might sound weird to hear this, but more than 90% of transactions are being rejected, which is a little too much, as you can imagine. And guess what the transaction belong to? They belong to the small and medium enterprises all over the world. And there has been lots of debates around that and how to empower the small companies. That's where blockchain can play a major role. It's no longer the case of speaking about documents. It's no longer the case of speaking about traditional instruments underlying transactions. Blockchain enables real data economy. We no longer speaking with new regulations, with new frameworks. We're no longer speaking about documents. We're speaking about records. We're speaking about data, which is really a revolution being in place. And data can indeed enable those micro, small, and medium companies to step into a much larger picture. You know, by the way, that I'm not only working as business development manager at XDC Foundation, I've been involved in several new ventures, Voice being one of them, but it's not the only one, by the way. So you have this new trend going on in the industry of not only sticking to financial data, there is the demand, the exigence of bringing new data sources that can enable the creation of new economy, of new microeconomy, and rebuilding the whole scenario. So the real focus nowadays is not only to focus on the financial data. Nowadays, a single transaction is originated in TradeFi on merely financial and economical data, balance sheets, mostly certified. So the thing is, and the question is, how can a small micro company, medium company, can provide those data for seeing its own transaction being approved and the underlying facility being approved? None. So it's easy to understand why this scary picture of 90 and more percent transaction being rejected, because you don't include those companies. They're simply being left apart. Again, if you allow new data, if you allow new technology to step into the picture, it's a real revolution. The advice I always give people now being interested in trade finance and blockchain is to look at what's going on the other side of the channel, by the way, here in Europe. One more advice: be swift, be quick, because something big is going on with the approval This will take place very soon, most probably in June, allegedly in June, with the approval of the Electronic Trade Documents Bill by the UK government. And it's going to change the face of trade and trade finance globally, because this will invest more than 50 countries around the world. Remember that trade is a global affair. It's global stuff. So this event, in connection with the introduction of the model law and electronic transferable records into that legal framework, is going to change the whole stuff. It's going to change the whole scenario. Most of the trade finance now is managed by large banks, by large international commercial banks. I got nothing against this, but I'm wondering how a large international bank can meet corporates' requirements. It simply cannot. The great advantage of this innovation in connection with the deployment of blockchain solution is that it allows for no banks, entities to step into the picture. And that's the real advantage. That's the real game-changing situation. It will allow fintech to step into transaction massively and to decentralize the whole industry, by the way. Besides this, bringing it all back to what we were discussing before, it will allow the leveraging on many data sources that so far has been neglected. As I said, you cannot only focus on merely financial data to originate transaction. It's simply no longer, again, sustainable. So that's in connection with the blockchain, the other use case scenario. You have new, much deeper data sources that can enable small and medium companies to step into the much larger picture of trade finance and trade. And that's where the other innovation in connection with blockchain steps in. It's the ESG or sustainability or SDG, Sustainable Development Goals. Is the quasi-perfect use case for blockchain. You simply have this new paradigm that enables you to leverage on data from environment, from social impact and governance. Remember how governance is important for blockchain solutions. So now you no longer look merely at financial and economical data for transaction. You go much deeper into this. You go deeper into the data and seeing how things are being done, how you create assets. And that's the real deal. It enables company to tap into new asset classes. Digital assets, by the way. So if before you concentrate on digital assets, financial one, now you have a much larger range for having transaction in places. And that's the real revolution, in my opinion. It's no longer a matter of seeing documents being transmitted from one stakeholder in a transaction to the other one. It's much larger than that. And if you, sorry, but were you asking something? Yeah.
Yep, you're good.
Oh, cool. So that's where blockchain can play a major role. You have this much larger classes of assets. Guess what I'm thinking of? You have security tokens that can allow you to leverage carbon emissions, not only plastic emissions, plastic being deeply deployed into the supply chain space. So if before those data sources were neglected, nowadays they do step in massively into supply chain space, into trade space, into the trade finance space. It changes the whole world for small and micro and medium companies around the world. You enable companies literally being left apart from neglected parts of the world. And nowadays, I can figure out how a company from Northern Africa can leverage on international trade, how a company from Africa in general or Middle East can leverage on trade finance facilities. The answer is none. So again, TradeFi being digitalized means empowerment. And that's where the attention of the large international institution has been focused. Now it's time to action. We got everything, by the way. We got technology, we got paradigms, we got legal frameworks. It's just a matter of a very small step ahead. A small one, a big one for most of the stakeholders being involved. It's just a matter of changing mindset, embracing decentralization. It's not evil. It's highly beneficial. So let's bad advertisement towards, blockchain and more deeper look into what's going on globally from a technological point of view and also from a legal framework point of view. The two being so strictly entwined into the trade finance and trade space. So this is what we are doing actually, by the way. What I'm doing with my colleagues nowadays, we are actually putting in place projects that are deeply focusing on all these issues, this new alternative asset classes for recreating microeconomies around the world, empowering those local communities by letting them step into the larger picture of international trade and trade finance. It will take a while. It's a long journey that one cannot achieve overnight, but we're on a good pathway, in my opinion. So, briefly saying, it's we have a huge, giant opportunity, and companies around the world actually have it. It's just a matter of, hey, I realize we have this possibility. I embrace technology fully. I understand it. There's, in my opinion, further steps to be undertaken for the industry, and I'm talking about blockchain, creating really seamless, frictionless solutions that are easy to use. That's maybe the next step to undergo. But as for the rest, it's gonna come very soon. I mean, I won't bore you too much. I wanted to add my intake on what's going on my side. I didn't focus on any particular solution being created, but I wanted to cast a message, to deliver a message to the community on what's going on. And maybe Lance, which is with us today, can add some words because he's so deeply involved with it.
Yeah.
My project.
Yeah, I earlier when I was talking about, I mentioned DeFi briefly, and I mentioned trade finance obviously because some of the stuff in trade finance is somewhat related to DeFi, or what I think DeFi is eventually going to become. I think another problem with DeFi, Nick, you were mentioning sort of gas and some of the barriers that people have, complicated for people to use. I think another thing that's also a big barrier in DeFi is what are the assets that users are actually interacting with, right? And you try to explain to them what this crypto is or that crypto is, and they can't necessarily wrap their head around the value proposition for it, right? But if it was something around an invoice, for an actual manufactured item, or if it's around commodities or wheat or grain or something like that, something that people can wrap their head around, and you get that in sort of a DeFi or TradeFi economy. I think that's something that users can wrap their head around, and I think that's sort of what Andrea was getting at, is that it brings these new asset classes to users, and then it also brings more capital and liquidity to farmers or SMEs, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's some entities and participants on XDC that are focused around that, and that's sort of, when I think DeFi in my head, that's sort of what I'm thinking about personally.
You said it perfectly. We're talking about commodities, and you all know how important commodities are for those economies. They're essential. It's a new world and new way, in some way, to trade those commodities. You cut intermediaries, and when you have a peer-to-peer transaction, you step into a different world, and you tap into different liquidity sources back in those transactions. So this allows to create rewards, to understand mechanism underlying transaction, and to reformulate. And technology can play a major role, especially if you don't focus on single technology merely, but you let it interact with other ones. That's maybe where the game is about change. So, I mean, it's a whole new world being created nowadays. Bringing it back to the commodities, you no longer focus into the production, you go deeper into the production. How much your emissions are, how much plastic do you consume? You create new data sources that those companies can leverage upon. And these are the new assets Lance was referring to. Sorry, Robert.
No worries. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. So thank you again for your insight. And I think so that was all everybody's presentation. So thank you. I totally appreciate everybody coming on, educating. Hopefully the audience had a good time. Now we can, take a little bit of time, do Q&A. I know Thiago posted a question for Nick, which was a question for, does Divi have a privacy layer, to transact and store and compute all that corporate data?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So we look at a few different concepts for privacy. Obviously, privacy coins have had a difficult time forever, with Dash and the like being delisted from exchanges, and regulatory environments being relatively unclear about how privacy coins will be handled. So I prefer like privacy layers to handle these types of things. So one of the things that I referenced in my presentation was our implementation of side chains, which I think you'll be familiar with considering you're a Cardano guy. So we'll be able to implement ZK proofs on a side chain and enable whatever we need to enable. I really have a deep interest, even outside of Divi, in like ZK AVMs. So Polygons seems okay. ZK Sync is really quite interesting. And then Consensus also has Lenia coming out. And then, of course, there's like stuff on the Cosmos ecosystem for like secret network and whatnot. So whether we leverage our own tech, which is, of course, always the primary goal, or someone else's tech, or create a side chain to integrate with those technologies cross-chain, we'll always be able to have a privacy-focused layer. But the main chain is not necessarily like a privacy layer on its own by default.
Cool.
So I have a question for each of you. Now that most of your projects are, some of them are 5+ years old, and obviously turning that corner where it's like make or break, and with the longevity, being sustained. What are some key challenges you're seeing, hopefully coming out of this bear market, for development? And I know most of y'all don't focus on price because that comes with the use cases. So any challenges this go around, and what are y'all gonna do to keep pushing the barrier, like to try and break it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably all, especially the older projects, all face the same issues of being drowned out by whatever the latest hype cycle is promoting. But I find that like a lot of things are flashes in the pan, and there's a reason that all these projects have stayed around for so long. And I think it comes down to one thing, which is community. So as long as your community is strong and still there and building, and you have integrity in what you're doing and true purpose, I feel that you can. This is our second bear market as a project, and you can withstand pretty much anything as long as your community is still there. I think that all projects have realized that at one point or another that there needs to be like genuine revenue sources as well. You can't just rely on coin price or emissions or whatever to fund everything. And that's why I think a lot of projects, Divi included, have for-profit entities that support the chain. So we have Divi Labs, which is a completely separate entity from the blockchain foundation, that enable subsidy of the ecosystem. So those types of things have kind of helped us get through the toughest times.
Yeah, you can tell you've been in it for a bit then, because those two things you mentioned, I was like, yep, I feel that. The community and realizing you got to have some revenue streams outside of just, and that's why you've probably been around for a couple cycles. Yeah, community is important too. I mean, community is what keeps it going. I think people always would say that just because that was sort of the right thing to say, right? When people say how important is community, everybody says it's important, but I mean, it really is, especially when you try to go through those down markets and bear markets, you really start to value how important, having a good, strong community is. XDC Network too has got, I mean, I know everybody thinks their community is strong, but man, I'd put ours up against a lot, the XDC community. So we even have some measurables we try to use with like some social media tools around like engagement and trending around other communities, and kind of stack that up against ours, some that we monitor just to kind of help gauge community health. And if you sort of relate that to where we are on like market cap or whatever compared to some others, and then you measure our engagement versus those, it's actually stands up pretty well. So that's kind of a tool that we use for engagement. But a lot of people talk about regulatory clarity and stuff like that, and that's an important one. But I think regulatory clarity is only a barrier if you actually have people that are actually interested in trying to go through that barrier, right? So I think the biggest hurdle really is still trying to get people that aren't familiar with the technology, or enterprises that aren't familiar with the technology, to actually try it. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I think, I'm not sure if it was Thiago or Nick, somebody mentioned, the language that you use, right? Instead of using wallet or whatever, use some different language. I think we've become really good at that as well when trying to talk to people, what kind of language you use. But I still think that's sort of the biggest hurdle, is trying to get more people familiar with the technology and warm them up to it, and actually get them to try to actually use it. Regulatory clarity obviously is an important one too, but I still think it's trying to bring on more users is still the biggest barrier.
Yeah, I agree totally on that. The perspective from Cardano side is, it's more like we are in the moment where the community is preparing to show yourself to the market, basically. We have like 1 year of contract in the network, second update on the scripts. And this will allow us to a lot of projects to go up on the stages and really show up the community that's mainly known by the Twitter action in general. So 1 year ago, for us to, as a community, to show up in a stage and talk about Cardano in software development was not really a good idea. You know, Cardano took a lot of time to be developed and deployed. But at the end, we are getting good results from what we are putting out. So I expect in the next 2 years we'll see way more Cardano projects popping out around the corner, different ideas, applications. There is a lot of side chains coming together around Cardano. Comida already runs EVM. There is this other side chain called Midnight that is private focus. And I think end of this month we already have like wrapped smart contracts inside normal transactions in Cardano, so we can run Solidity scripts directly from a Cardano wallet in one simple transaction. So we'll wrap the contract, and from a Cardano wallet you'll be able to execute a Solidity on a side chain. So we're starting to see the combination of technology and a better user experience at the same time. But the community still needs to come together and have like a greater coordination to be able to support the onboarding of new projects. And basically this is what I'm working right now on the gaming side on Cardano. I'm one of the founders of CGG, Cardano, sorry. And we are trying to push this guild to speed up games on Cardano and how to onboard developers to deploy games on the ecosystem, providing open source tools for marketplaces, authentication, application, and etc.
Awesome. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and kind of echo some of the sentiments that the other speakers had mentioned as far as, reach and exposure of, these projects. And it's challenging too. As I mentioned before, Digibyte was, it was a non-ICO offering when it was first launched. And, trying to raise funds to pay for things like developer bounties, it's often a challenge, especially during downturns in the markets. Your casual, Bitcoiners and Digibyte, they kind of, come and go. But, I think ultimately it comes down to being able to provide, use cases that provide value for people, out in the world, people that haven't quite, jumped into the technology yet. When they can come in and see that, oh, well, it's more than just, speculative investment. It's not just, hey, I want to take some dollars and buy some coins, and then hopefully they go up in value in dollar terms down the road, and then I can cash out, and now I've got more money. It needs to be more than that. So I think, it's imperative for, people like us to, be out front of this and to be able to provide information, education for people and help kind of sort out some of the confusion. I know, Lance, you touched on this earlier in your presentation where, I know I experienced it myself when I first got in, because I'm like, well, what do you mean send this to an address? I don't understand that. So it took some time to understand that myself and see how that works and avoid the traps that you can fall into, because it doesn't take much for someone to have a bad experience where, like, oh, I sent Ethereum to a Bitcoin address and now it's gone forever. And now, they kind of like, they shy away from this sort of thing. And then of course, you've got, instances within the industry that suck up a lot of the air in the room, like FTX and, these, exchanges or, platforms that imploded. And a lot of people, they saw that as a way to, get into cryptocurrency and experience blockchain, and they put all their coins there thinking, hey, I'm going to get a nice return on this, and then poof, one day, it's gone and you're locked out, and who knows if, you're ever going to get your coins back. And again, that's a situation that, just leaves a really bad taste in people's mouths, and they're like, hey, I'm never touching crypto again because I get burned or I don't understand it. But these are certainly interesting times that we're living in, and as currencies issued by governments that have no backing and just get printed out of thin air, continue to inflate away and lose their purchasing power. People are really understanding money, at the foundational level. They understand, like, okay, well, these dollars, they're not backed by anything. It doesn't even qualify as money because it's not a store of value by definition. So they're going to start looking for alternatives for things of value. And of course, gold and silver historically have fit that bill, but that's not a solution going forward for humanity, in my opinion. It certainly has a use for it, but things like cryptocurrencies can provide that way forward because it allows us to settle trade internationally within seconds, as opposed to, okay, let's load up a bunch of gold bricks on a boat and ship it across the sea, and it'll show up in port in a couple of weeks, and the cost involved with something like that. So I think people will start recognizing the value of cryptocurrencies, and they're going to start coming in very quickly, I think. So I think that's just something that we as community members and people that participate in this environment, we just got to step up and be ready for these people when they come to us, and be ready to help them along and hold their hand and answer their questions, so they don't fall into all these traps that a lot of people have fallen in the past.
100% agree with that.
Excellent. All right. We'll do one more question and we'll wrap it up. I think we're almost at our 2-hour mark, so that was good on everybody's part, just trying to go through and educate everybody. So the last question, which I'm big on, the interoperability part. So, what's your guys' focus, or what do you guys think on that? Like having other projects, expand, and with everything that's going on, because we all see Ethereum always choking and fees, way up there. With their layer 2 growing, what do you guys want? If you guys want to touch upon that, that'd be great.
I'm really excited to see Hydra. We recently have the first experience in mainnet, and if we manage to deploy all the promises behind that, it will be a very unique experience on top of the network. So Hydra, I think, can really push the boundaries of what the blockchain in general can do. So to me, interoperability is also tied to capacity, a certain level, and this is my thoughts right now in relation to interoperability. Also, there is one other topic about interoperability that I think could be big. It's it's the identities. The moment we reach a good solution to have IDs being interoperable, we'll have a new big push in the blockchain technology, and we'll see a deeper integration even on TradeFi and DeFi in general.
I think probably the most difficult thing about interoperability across networks is the fact that there's a pretty significant lacking of data standards across the networks. So you have Cosmos, which is a layer 0 blockchain, obviously, and then all the layer 1s on top of it are interoperable by default because it's a standard architecture, and that works great. Polkadot is the same way with the parachains, works great inside that ecosystem. Once you come out of those ecosystems, I think that's when it becomes complicated. You have bridges which expose users to risk. You have oracles which expose decentralization to risk. And I think those are the big problems that need to be talked about and solved. I think that layer twos, obviously, like on Ethereum, are a great way to scale the ecosystem. But even then, they're not exactly interoperable. But I think they probably have the best opportunity to prove that a blockchain ecosystem can be interoperable. But then, again, when we're talking about actual cross-chain from the EVM into the IBC, or even from some of the layer ones into various networks, there's going to have to be some sort of agreement on data structures and such. The implementation of side chains, I think, is probably one of the best paths for UTXO based layer ones. So like Digibyte, Cardano, Divi, to have a side chain that runs parallel to the main blockchain, because a side chain can be based on any data structure. So perhaps in the future, the dinosaurs, as you called them, have the best opportunity to actually be the most interoperable blockchains, because they have the ability to generate side chains that can fulfill any need. But yeah, these are the problems I don't have answers to. But would love to
I
talk
think
about.
the industry as a whole is still trying to figure it out, man. So to think that us here in this group got it figured out,
Yeah.
I think the standards will set over time.
Yeah,
There's
but
no way that-
my thing on the standards though is, even in traditional markets and supply chain and in finance, it's so hard for those industries to even get standards implemented, right? I mean, look at even like the ISO 20022, right? Like, look, that is in a $1 trillion industry, and it took them since like I think 2005 or something like that. They've been trying to get that standard implemented.
It's been
Look how
quite a
long-
while going
Look how
on.
long that took, And
Almost
there's
20 years,
there's a
Lance.
lot of money involved in that. So to think that our industry is going to get on some sort of stand, I mean, I don't know. It can be done, but I'm just saying it's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a while. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, honestly, because I think everybody's trying different things, trying new things. Algorand's trying the state proofs, with the light clients. I don't know if it's some sort of thing where there's some third party trusted entities that are involved that help bridge that between chains, or what. I'm not sure, what it is, but I think we're a little ways off from true interoperability between chains.
I mean, decentralized interoperability is definitely way out. True.
Yep.
But like you have, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It's not a blockchain, but it's a decentralized or distributed ledger technology called Corda R3.
Yeah.
So like that's like a permission based, sort of like a Ripple competitor, Swift competitor. Works really well because it's like a standard across the banks that use it. But again, it's completely, I mean, I guess it's distributed, but it's centralized. Like you have to have permission to use it, and then it creates a new cabal, a new club that you have to buy into, essentially.
Yep.
But
you have to deploy a node to participate.
Exactly. So it works similarly to a blockchain network, but it's not open source or transparent. So it kind of, I won't say defeats the purpose. Obviously, banks have their own use cases, but something like that in the background, like you're saying, is probably the answer. But how do we do it in a way that everyone can trust or not have to trust?
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yep.
So we had one last question from Andrew, and we'll close out here. So he has a question for all of you, because broad adoption obviously hasn't hit yet. I think we're maybe barely at the 5% world adoption on cryptos, blockchain. So he's asking, with AI, coming into the scene, what do you think is the next onboarding, for Web3 cryptos? Nick, you kind of, touched upon this during your speech, but, is it going to be enterprise level, back end, truly the gaming as well, or what else do you all see?
Go ahead, Thiago.
Yeah, look, the games today, the numbers are like, we have 3 billion players around the world. Let's say in the next 10, 20 years, 30% is onboarded. Okay, check mark 1 billion users. identity, I think will become a thing.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of room to onboard through identity and access services, cross jurisdiction through TradeFi, etc. So I think identity is a new check mark, because it also helps the local government and the citizens to keep their own data. If a war starts in Ukraine and suddenly you don't have more the records, it's like you're no one, right? You don't have your data. It's like you cross the border and who are you, right? So I think it's very important. And yeah, the corp world, I think there is a huge opportunity. I was throwing in the chat later that mobile network and IoT device, probably a next billion. But yeah, I also let some other options for you guys to bring to the table.
Yeah, I think for the space to move forward, I think you're going to have a lot of cases where companies will integrate this technology and build upon it and release a product that serves a purpose, that provides a service of value, and people will start using it because they see the benefit of it, without even really realizing that they're utilizing a blockchain underneath it. I think especially Thiago, you mentioned with identity. If you have wallets that utilize private keys and you use that to authenticate yourself, I mentioned earlier in my presentation that DGMB ID authenticator. If you have a tool like that gets adopted by all these companies and they issue it to their employees, those employees, they might not understand Bitcoin yet, but they're like, oh, well, my boss said I got to use this app now to access the building every day I go into work. They're using the technology and they're even conscious of it. So I think you're going to see a lot of examples of those types of products coming out here in the near term, and that's going to increase adoption down the road.
Yeah, Cardano is sorry, Nikki,
No,
just to complement the DID topic. Cardano is really big on the students in Africa because they don't have the records, and Africa is like a really young population. They're expanding, and well, there's a lot of people there that need this type of technology. Go ahead, Nick.
And they're setting the pace, by the way, Thiago. I work massively with Africa, so don't think of a country. Maybe it's missing infrastructure, but that's where the real opportunities are, not in the future, nowadays. And the challenges connected with the identity in general are massive because of structure itself in the continent. So that's where the real focus should be. To start from East Africa, a country like Kenya, they're setting the pace for the whole continent in this respect.
It's interesting how, like, I talk to a lot of businesses every week. They're all talking about the same stuff. There's the stuff we're talking about here, digital identity. Because think about like a very old conglomerate has dozens of businesses within its network, right? We think about it from like an individual corporate entity, but a lot of these businesses own companies that we don't even realize are related to them. Their business networks are really fragmented, and they have basically no ability to like standardize the architecture across. Something like digital identity does that for them by default without exposing, any of the individual's information. So whether it's from an employee level or from a consumer level, maybe I go to a coffee shop that has the same loyalty program as an airline, right? You should be able to spend your airline points at that coffee shop. Your identity, your loyalty identity, I'm choosing the basic example of loyalty, should be able to transition across all of those various verticals and enterprises within the conglomerate. that's like, that seems to resonate with every business, but getting them to the point where they're like, yeah, let's do it is a whole different thing, right? You have to actually, and same thing goes with tokenizing. They all want to tokenize this or that. They all want to have Web3 strategies, but because the industry has been in decline for the past year and a half, almost 2 or whatever, and there's just been so much garbage happening. It's hard. It puts blockers up for these companies that don't want to take huge risks. So I feel like to supplement my opinion that I mentioned in my presentation, we as a community, as a ecosystem, as a industry, need to act with more integrity and just really weed out these bad actors and actually build businesses. Otherwise, they're never going to take us seriously at the enterprise level, which again is the next way that we onboard the next billion people. I know everyone on this call has a lot of integrity, but we just got to stand up to the people that don't.
Excellent. All right. Thank you for those wise words and answering all the questions. I want to thank everyone again. I know it's probably late for some and early for others. So we'll do this again, hopefully down the road and see where you're all at. And it's a good time to be alive and working and participating in these communities. So everyone, any audience members still joining, take a look at all these projects. And again, I'll post the video recording. And thanks again.
Good to meet all y'all too.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Great.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye, guys.
All right. Take care, everyone.
See you. Take care, guys.